Hello again, everyone. Ken from Whittling Woods back again with another little whittling wood carving tutorial. Seeing that we're entering into the holiday season, I figured I'd throw my hat into the ring. I know there's been a lot of videos on Christmas whittles, and we're going to do the little Santa whittle here. This is from a whittling project I did a few videos back, maybe a couple months back. They're pretty simple whittles to do. This is a slight variation on that, maybe just slight more detail in there. Essentially the same thing. We're going to be using, for today's whittle, a piece of eastern white pine. That's 4 inches in length. And in this case, I don't have it marked on here, but it's in 1 inch and an eighth square. I put some measurements on here. 1.25 inches down for his hat. We're going to go from the top 3 1/4 inches to the bottom of where his little hands mittens are going to be. And then from that first hat mark down about 1/2 inch, that's going to be the area we're going to put the nose. None of these measurements are necessarily critical, but they're there for reference, and in case anyone wants to follow along and using the same piece of wood. There's the measurements I use, and it's a fairly simple whittle. It's not gonna be too detailed. You can see that the pieces are relatively easy to do. They're great for little stocking stuffers, gift toppers. If you put a little eye hook in the top, you can also obviously maybe use them as a little ornament as well. They're fun little projects to do, and seeing that we're entering the holiday season, get yourself in the mood and whittle a little Santa character here. Anyway, I'm going to get everything set up. We're going to, just so you know, we're going to be using the Stanley 199 in this whittle, but of course you could use a pocket knife, you could use a dedicated whittling knife, whatever. Again, none of these, none of the supplies are critical. Use whatever you have. I just like to show different tools when I'm whittling, because I know people have a lot of different wood carving whittling tools that they use, but in this case we're going to do use the Stanley 199. All right, I'm going to get everything set up and I will be right back. Okay, we're going to start with just taking the top down a bit. This is going to be his hat along here, so we're just going to go across here and start taking it down. I'm going to kind of zoom through this because you can see what we're doing. We're just forming it into a bit of a cone shape. So anyway, let me speed through this and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back here. A couple things to keep in mind. Put your center lines down the block of wood before you get started. You can just use your hand and guide it and put your center lines even across the top and the bottom planes as well. Do it all the way across. It'll help you. It'll give you some guidance. The thing to keep in mind too is for and this is why it's good to do it across the top. You can kind of get an idea of how symmetrical your carving will be. If you want the tassel to be right in the center, it'll give you some guidance to see how close you are as you kind of whittle down to those marks. We're not going to go too far down because we're going to leave some room here for the tassel. Just kind of get it started. The other thing I like to do is, because we want this area here, this is going to be the brim of his little hat. It's going to be essentially rounded. So start to round out those corners a bit. Just go down like I've been doing here. Just kind of round it out a bit. And that's all. These are. I'm trying to make these whittles as straightforward and easy for a beginner to handle as can be. So, and I think this is definitely a great little beginner project. So there you go. Let's kind of get it to that part right there. You can see. Okay. One of my viewers in the prior videos, I did a series on whittling the nose, whittling the mouth, and I typically do the face. So the nose is on the plane, and I whittle in. If you watch a couple videos back, you'll see how I do the nose. You can do it on the edge as well. The reason I don't typically do it on the edge if I'm doing a small whittle. If he has feet, it makes it easier to whittle the feet. If you do the face and the head, the nose, and everything like that on one of the flat planes. But in this case, we're actually going to use the corner because this little character, as you can see here, doesn't really have any feet. He's just got his little robe that's going all the way down and covering his feet. So we can take advantage of the natural shape of the corner to start putting the area for the nose. Next thing we're going to do here is to start to define the bottom of the hat. So if you have your little guidelines, you can kind of follow along with those. I typically, what I like to do when I do these little whittles is to slope the hat towards the back a little bit. So as we're coming down here, we're going to kind of slope this a bit more heading towards the back. You don't necessarily have to. It just, again, these are kind of style choices. So as you kind of wrap your stop cut for the bottom of the hat around, start to angle it downward if you choose to go that route. That's going to be his nose. So we're going to probably make the bottom of the hat. This is our guideline. So we're going to the back of the hat's going to come down just slightly further. So I'll put a reference cut in there and kind of cut up to that, so we know where we want to join these marks. It just, I think it kind of makes the figure look better a little bit, but you don't necessarily have to. And it's easier if you do it like this, where you put your guideline in the back, the final cut in the back, and then start to connect your cuts, so you can see it's kind of at an angle below the line we made. And how much you choose to do it is up to you. I don't typically use hard and fast measurements. I supply them initially to get people going, but feel free to alter those to your liking. Now these whittles, typically you can, in any kind of whittling project, simple whittling projects like this, you can fly through these pretty quickly. But to be honest with you, part of the whittling process is slowing things down, taking your time, enjoying the process, because it's not so much the end product that we're concerned about. You really need to focus in on the actual process, because that becomes the enjoyable component to it, actually doing it. So try not to rush it too much. We're going to take our time and enjoy the whittle. So that's where we are now. We got, as you can see, we got the hat established here. We can actually take down some of these corners as well, make it easier to hold. We don't need hard and fast edges on these corners. You can take them down. You could have started doing that as well. Not a lot, just take it down a bit if that's more comfortable to hold. And there we go. We're going to start considering where the nose is going to be. And again, I mentioned I've done recently a number of tutorials on doing the nose, so feel free to go check those out as well. Don't worry about getting the detail for the bottom of the hat, getting it perfectly clean. We're going to be doing a lot of cutting up to it, so if you do that a lot, you're gonna kind of chip and fray this bottom here. So we're gonna refine this and clean it up once we're done. But anyway, this is where our nose is going to be. We had marked down our 1/2 inch point from the bottom of the hat, so we're going to put a stop cut for the bottom of the nose and just kind of start to cut up to that. We don't have to go too deep. Kind of like so. And then he's a Santa character, so we're going to make sure all his features stay slightly rounded. I think it's the way I think I'm going to do this one here. So that's how we start making those decisions. You can always change your mind as you go along here, but if you have an idea of how you want it to look initially, that's a good way to go about it. So there you go. I'll get some of that wood out of the way here. You can see what we did here. This area in here is going to be his beard and mustache, so we're not going to, we're not going to take too much away, but we can sort of flatten that out a little bit more. All right. So for the nose, we're going to give him sort of a wide nose. We're going to come up here and just kind of come down. Give ourselves some reference lines to cut to. So kind of like that. And maybe this one goes in a little bit more. And just take your knife and go in at the top. This is going to be the deepest area right up here. We're going to put our knife in and just cut down. Put a little stop cut. That's all. Doesn't have to be too deep initially. Come up to the bottom of the hat and put another stop cut in. You can see how that goes. And then we're going to come underneath here and we're just going to take that wood away. And again, I know this is being repetitive if you've watched my recent videos, because you've seen me go through that. We're just shaping the nose here. So that's all we did. Just cutting some wood away here. Eventually his, an indication of eyes will be up there. That's all I need to do. And then repeat the process on the other side. Put your nose in, put your knife in deeper over here, and then bring it down to the bottom of your nose. So you're just putting a stop cut in, just like that. And then we'll go up to the top, put another stop cut in, as you can see. And then again, we're going to take this little chunk of wood out. So we're going to come here with a parent cut and just remove that chunk of wood, like so. You can kind of see how that went. So we got the kind of the rough out of the nose done. The way I approach whittling is I like to sort of rough in most of the details and then refine them as I go along. I know some people might do it differently. They might work in in an area and get the detail taken care of right from the get-go. I tend to just kind of start roughing things out. So that's it. We've got a basic nose in there. What I do like to do, however, is establish where the nostrils are going to be, because the reason I do that is the smile lines kind of go from the point of the top point of the nostril. So if I put a mark in here and another mark, look, I kind of eyeball it, make sure we're at the same height. We're going to put two little marks in there for our nostril line. If the nose isn't perfectly symmetrical, maybe you can kind of come back. I'm looking at mine now, it might be a little bit off, so we're just going to clean that up a bit. Go in here and put your knife right at that little mark you made, and just put a little stop cut in. And again, I've done detailed tutorials on this previously, so you can go check that out. And we're just going to take out a little notch of wood over there to begin to form the nostril. Excuse me. Here we go. And then flip it around. Same thing on this side. Put a little stop cut in there. So I did that. And then take that little notch out. So you've kind of established a bit of a notch. It's a very easy way to do the nose. And then what I typically do is I start to come back in here and I'll just kind of scoop out a little wood. Kind of blend those cuts together, in other words. And like I said, we're gonna refine the nose a bit more as we go along. So don't get hung up too much in detail at this point. So there we are. It's pretty straightforward. Again, like I said, remember we're going to be looking at eventually keeping all this nose a bit on the rounder side. So there we go. Pretty easy to do. We can come in here and you can either put lines or just use your knife. Put a little smile line mark and bring it down right to here. And another one on this side. What we're going to do here is put a stop cut in over here and put a stop cut in over here, and then take out that chip of wood. So let's do that. Put our knife in the wood right at that nostril line, come down a little ways like so, come right against the nostril, if it's curved, you can follow the curve with your knife like so. Put another stop cut in. So you've got 2 cuts in there, and then there's just a little triangle of wood which we can kind of work out. You just bring your knife in and cut that out. You can go back and clean up any pieces in there. But again, don't worry about getting it all cleaned up right now. We can come back and refine it. But that's generally how I start the deepening the nose, so to speak. So there you go. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to put our knife right there. You can kind of see from this angle, right where the nostril is. Follow along that little line we made, and then same thing against the nostril. We're just going to come in and put another little stop cut there. So you can see those 2 stop cuts here and here. And then come back and work that little triangular piece of wood out. Now, depending on what wood you're working with, some woods are harder than others. And in this case, this eastern white pine is really soft, or relatively soft. And it's pretty easy to take the things out. But the downside to that is it does tend to be a little fragile and chips out and frays a little bit. But anyway, there you go. That wasn't too hard. So get yourself to that point. And the next thing we'll do is start considering where the mustache and nose and everything else, or excuse me, mustache and beard is going to be. So what we could do here is carry the mustache right from the bottom of the nose, maybe right to that smile line, and bring it down, and do the same thing on this side. Bring it right from the bottom of the nose to that smile line, and then kind of bring it down. So that's going to be the basis of his mustache. Find the center point in the distance below the nose you want the mustache to be. I'm going to say right about here, So put your little mark in there. And then depending on how you want the mustache, if you want it going down, you can draw your lines down like that. If you want the mustache to kind of hook up, let's do it that way. Let's kind of make the mustache kind of curve down and then tie back in to this line. So it's got a mustache like that, if you can see how I drew that. And then let's do the same thing on this side, where we come down and we tie into the line we made over there. So there you go. You've established where the mustache is going to be. And then again, this is all going to be, we're going to be just cutting out wood or putting stop cuts in, excuse me, to define that. So right here, we're going to come down, follow that down, and close it in like so. And then just cut kind of down to that, just basically as if you had a V gouge, you're just kind of defining that. And you can do the same thing on the other side. Kind of come in here, go straight down, following your line. And then you can kind of come back, cut down to it a little bit, and maybe cut up to it a little bit. That's all. We're just kind of defining the mustache. And then for here, what I do is I'll put my knife in the wood over here and over here. Make that little kind of do those 2 cuts in there, and then just take out that little triangle. And we've essentially formed the bottom of the mustache. And then we can do the same thing. We want to tie this in, so let's bring our mustache around. We're going to follow our line that we put in here, making a stop cut, kind of like so. And then just follow it around, cut up to that. We're defining the bottom of the mustache, where the mustache ends and the beard continues, just like so. Just take out that wood around there. You can come right up to the end over here. So that's it. We got the basic bottom of the mustache established, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Follow our line, right around, tie it into all the line we made, and then just come back and start removing some wood. That's all. So you can see here, this is all that's pretty easy to do, you know. And you got the basic of a mustache in there as well. We've got the nose, the mustache, and now the beard. Now you're going to establish where you want the bottom of the beard to be. So I would say that, you know, again, choose your, if you want a nice long beard, go down here. He's a Santa character, so we're gonna come. His hands are going to end right about here. So let's put his beard slightly above that. You know, we'll reference that, and then maybe we'll go up from the bottom of the mustache, or the end of the mustache. Kind of let's wrap that around. We'll get a beard indication in there again from the bottom of the mustache. Let's wrap it around, give him a nice kind of a full beard. Like so. And as we've done before, we're going to start doing putting stop cuts in. Basically, that's all these are. Just follow your line around. Make sure your knife is and your thumb are secure, and there you go. Put a little stop cut in there, and you can kind of come back and start removing some wood up to that stop cut, just to begin to define the bottom of the beard. There you go. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. We're going to put our knife in the wood and again stop cut all the way up and tie it in like so, just like that. And you can kind of come back and, you know, start to remove wood up to that cut. You can kind of see we have a little, we have our guy moving along pretty good here. Okay, now we've got all our kind of rough ends for the beard and mustache in. We can start taking it back a little bit, refining it a little bit more. We're going to come back and start doing that. I don't like to do too much detail work at this point. I think we're going to take a look at our guy, make sure that everything seems okay to you, if you like the way it goes. At this point now we're going to consider where the back of his hair is. So where his hair ends. So I'd say, you know, his beard ended about that length. So let's move the hair up a little bit more. We're going to put a mark in here for the hair. I'm going to give him hair about that long. You know, he's Santa, so he can have slightly longer hair. He's self-employed, so he doesn't have to worry. He doesn't have to worry about how his hair looks. And then what I do is I bring the hair down from the side over here. Let's kind of start to round this out over here on both sides, because his hair is going to basically come from underneath his hat, and it's going to come down. You can bring it right down to where the mustache ends, kind of like so, and then bring it right around to where you have that cut. So that's it. You're just going to put your pencil mark in there, bring it right around, and do the same thing on this side. So we're going to come to from right about here, right, follow it straight down to where the mustache kind of ends, and then wrap it right around. So there you go. And then what I like to do is I come in here and I'm going to put my knife in the wood, pretty much straight in the wood on that cut, that plane. And I'm going to start up here, and I'm just going to bring my knife right down And again, these are just like we've been doing all along. We're just establishing our stop cuts. So there you go. You kind of see that. And we'll start taking out the wood to define the bottom of the hair. It's really all whittling, wood carving is. You're just defining boundaries between different planes in the wood. You can come back over here and just bring back, which is essentially the side of his face. You're gonna just remove a chunk of wood over there, so you can remove his, kind of mark the boundary between the face and the hair. And that's it. What I do is to define the cheek. We're going to find a spot, and I think right about here, give or take, you can kind of see maybe the mid part of the mustache. We're going to put a line in here because the cheek's going to kind of go up and wrap around in this direction. So what I do is I'll put a stop cut in here. Maybe you have to do it from both sides. And then we're just going to kind of cut up to that a little bit and cut down to it. So we're beginning to define the cheek, just like so. Now this area in here, it depends on how you want to do it. You can essentially continue the beard up that way, redefine your cut. Kind of see how I did that. And then just take, this is all going to be his shoulder area, and then just kind of cut that wood away. So essentially this little section in here, when you're painting it, is going to be the same color as his beard, and which kind of makes sense because you would expect the beard to kind of come down and around. So that's it. And just, even it up the way you like. Just like that. And we're going to go back and, when we start doing our detail work, we'll clean some of those cuts up. That's kind of how we are. So there you go. If you can kind of see how that went. And again, like I said, don't worry if it looks, if your piece doesn't look, you don't want to focus too much in on detail at this point. We want to take our time. So there you go. I'm going to do a little stropping of my knife, and I'll be right back. Okay, so knife's all stropped up. We're going to continue our hair on the other side. I'm going to come down here again, straight into the wood, following along our cut that we made, and just take our time. Keep your thumb over here secure, and just tie it into the lines you already made, just like that. And like we did on the other side, we're just gonna kind of cut up to it, and then we can kind of come back in here, and you can go in here and remove a little bit of wood, like we did like we did over here. Same kind of thing. Just defining that boundary between the hair and the cheek. All right. So again, we'll do the same thing we did over here. We're going to put a little, looks like about midway on the mustache, maybe, give or take. Put a little cut in here, just to define the cheek area. And he's a Santa character, so he's got little pudgier cheeks, and when we get around to painting those, we'll make them little rosy cheeks, I guess. There you go. And you kind of see we did pretty much the same thing we're doing on the other side. Like I said, we're going to continue the beard line up, so we're just going to put our knife in the wood and just cut out some wood over there, and then we'll just take that out. Because again, that little area in there, it's going to be just the continuation of his beard underneath his upper cheek, and just shape that out. That's all. So, like I said, pretty much the same thing we did on the other side. And you can go about and start considering, how you're going to round the cheek. But at this point, like I said, let's not focus in on too much detail. So there you go. Not that complicated. Now, the other thing we can consider at this point is where his arms are going to be. I mentioned the bottom here. That little line we made was going to be bottom part of his hand. You can see on the other little character here, it's going to come down about that far. So what I do here is I'll put a stop cut in. His hands are going to be straight down along his side. So let's put a stop cut in defining the bottom part of his hand and kind of cut up to that. That'll give us something to work towards. Now you can make the hands as complicated as you choose or as simple as you want. The hands / arm, excuse me. And what I'll give you an example of how you want to approach this in 1 second. Let me just finish these up. And let's start rounding that out and rounding that out. So I'll give you an idea of where we are. There you go. Now, here's what I was referring to. You can do it like this, where you see I've created the hand, this area in here, which would, is part of the fur that he has around his hat and his sleeve over there, and then he's got his little mittens. Or you can kind of just make it real simple and just put the little fur area over there, like I did on this little one here, not even showing any indication of mittens. We'll just assume his mittens are it's cold and they're kind of tucked into his sleeve. So you can do it either way. For this guy here, I think we'll give him little mittens just so you can see, because I think that kind of looks kind of cute. Takes a few seconds more to do, but again, we're here to enjoy the process of whittling, not rush through these things. Everything in life is rush, rush, rush. Let's slow things down and enjoy the experience of whittling. So there we are. I'll give you an indication of how it looks from the side. So for his arms, what I like to do first is kind of establish where the shoulder is going to be. So I come up from underneath the hair and I put a stop cut in, just like so. And then against the beard, and I put another stop cut in. And then I start to take that back. We're going to kind of assume that his shoulders are sloping in here a bit. Kind of like that. You can see from the side. And we'll do the same thing over here. We'll come up where the hair is and where the beard is. Put our 2 little cuts in there. And then basically angle back that little piece in there to form a bit of a shoulder. Okay, so there you go. You can kind of see it from the back over there. It might be a little bit clearer to see it from that angle. Now for the hands, or for the arms, what I like to do is to define the various the components that we talked about, the mittens and the little fur that he has around the bottom of his sleeve. I'm just cleaning up some of the wood in here, so when we form the sleeve it makes it easier. Okay, and then in here too as well. All right. At this point, it is a good idea to kind of get the bottom of the beard, or the boundaries of the beard, I should say, established. Clean it up a little bit as best you can, so we can start working the arm. So what we can do here is figure out where we're going to want our mittens. Let's say the mittens are going to be, we just want them tucking out a bit, so maybe the mittens will be there and the fur will be here, something like that. So we'll keep that in mind when we're working our little thing. But for the initial cut, what we're going to do here is form the sleeve area. We're going to come from basically underneath his hair and kind of maybe a slight curve. It doesn't have to be. And then from his beard, same kind of thing. We're going to come down here depending on how long you made the beard. So we're just going to define the arms that way. And the way to do that is, again, just a simple stop cut. We're going to come straight in again and straight down to where the bottom of the hand is. Put another stop cut, which is basically going to be a relieving cut up at the top underneath his hair. And then you're going to kind of come up from underneath, kind of like when we did the nose, and just remove a little chunk of wood. And it literally defines the boundary of the hand. And you can kind of come back and, you know, sometimes if you angle the hand so it looks like it's going up this way where the elbow would be, you know, that looks good too. Same thing in the front. We're going to put our knife in the wood and bring it straight down to the bottom of the arm. Put a little stop cut in underneath the beard, and then we're going to go from the bottom and take out that chunk of wood over there just to further define the beard, bottom of the beard, and his hand. So there you go. You kind of see how that went. So there we go. This is a really straightforward way to do the hand. And then for the mittens and hand, we're going to basically put our knife in where we want the mittens to start and just kind of roll it around on both sides. Just kind of roll it around so we can get a stop cut. There you go. And then what I like to do for the mittens, obviously, is cut up to that stop cut because they're going to be, you know, tucked. They're going to be going into the sleeve. Take little notches out right at the corners. So there we go. We have essentially a little indication of a mitten in there. We do the little fur on the bottom of his sleeve. I'm calling it fur. I'm not sure that's the correct term, but it is what it is. And then we're going to cut down to that because that's going to be slightly, you know, puffy at the bottom of his arm over there. You know, and sometimes with whittles like this, they're intended to be painted. So, you know, when you're just whittling it, it doesn't maybe stand out as much. But once you paint it up and you paint his sleeve red and his little fur white there, then, you know, it'll stand out more. Maybe make, I'll see when I paint these up, how, you know, what choice. I usually would make the mittens a green color and his Santa suit, obviously, a red color. But you can alter that if you choose. Make his suit a green color and his mittens red or something like that. Make his hat, you know, mix it up if you choose to. So there you go. We've essentially established how his arm's going to be. And you know, if you're watching it and you've made it this far in the video, if you're finding it useful, let me know. If you think I should be doing something differently, or, you know, have any suggestions, feel free to leave me some comment to that effect, and I'll be happy to you know, I read everything that people leave me, and appreciate the feedback. So there you go. What I like to do is establish where his thumb is going to be. So it's a mitten, so we're just going to put it, you know, a little area. We're just going to cut a line right in there, a little stop cut, and we're just going to take out a little kind of triangular piece in there, and it just enough to define where the thumb would be, and then, you know, round it out a bit more. You can kind of come around, just round that out a bit. And then what I like to do for the mittens is to kind of look like the hand slightly folded around, you know, chamfer the edge a bit. So it looks like they're kind of being tucked around. You know, it's cold, so Santa's got his hands all kind of tucked up. And then round them out a bit, and that's all. These are really pretty straightforward and easy to do, and you can see that's all you need to do. All right. So that's I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I won't bore you with those details because it's we're doing the exact same thing, and we don't want the video to drag on too long and be repetitive because obviously people would rather get to parts that I haven't done. So what I'm going to do is just finish that other side, and I'll be right back. Okay, there you go. Got the other hand taken care of, other arm hand taken care of. So what we're going to do here is just kind of start working on the base a little bit more. Just, slip it back. Basically, he has this kind of like Santa robe thing on, I guess you could say. What I like to do is kind of bunch it up at the bottom here and act like it's kind of maybe bunching up a little bit down in here. You don't have to. You could just square it straight off, but again, add a little details in just for your own sake, if nothing else, just because you like to do it and you have a knife and you got some wood and you're having fun. Do whatever details you like or don't like. We're kind of bunching it up, so it's kind of got the impression that it's hitting the floor and bunching up a little bit on the bottom. That's all. Some people may not see that or may not even notice it, but it's there. And you can add, I guess what I'm suggesting is add whatever kind of detail you like to your whittles. You can make them very simple, or add quite a bit of detail here and there. And take your time, like I mentioned earlier, just enjoy it. And so kind of like that, we're making it, if you can kind of see that, some of the rid of some of the wood and just kind of bunch it up. And in the front, we'll just kind of, we don't want to take too much off. We want to kind of give the impression he's got a little bit of a belly there. So what I'm going to do is just kind of round the bottom out just a bit more. So it looks like, there's a little bit of chubbiness in that side over there. And again, we're dealing with an inch and a quarter square piece of wood, so we try to make everything we can fit. So there you go. Kind of gives a little bit of impression of a little bit of a belly there. All right. So we're pretty much almost all the way done this whittle at this point. What we can start working on now is maybe putting some detail in his hat. So let's kind of go back here and start cleaning the hat up a bit. Just kind of go around here and take your time, round it out. Like so. And you can see at this point, you could take it in various directions. You could be a wizard, you could be a hillbilly, you could be a lot of things at this point. A guy with a beard, you can take it multiple directions. But we're doing a little Santa here. What we're going to have here is the fur on the bottom of his hat. So, I'm just going to draw a line here. I, typically don't know that that's necessarily. Just kind of keep equal distance from the bottom and draw and make your cuts. So you have a little hat there, and then we're going to have a little tassel on top of his head. And depending on how big you want to make it, again, I'm just going to draw it in for reference sake. You don't have to draw pencil lines in. You can just cut away. But the tutorial, and I want to make sure people understand where things are going. So there you go. So we can start forming the bottom of his hat. And all I do here is I just go around and just make these little stop cuts like that and just start trimming the wood away. So I won't bore you with all those details. So I'm just going to kind of go around and do all that. So let me speed through this and I'll be right back. Okay, you can see we just formed where the bottom of the hat, I should say the fur of his hat's going to be that bottom part. So we're also, eventually we're going to go around and round the bottom part out as well. But for the time being, there's where we go. So we can establish that little fur part. Let's also now put a little stop cut for the tassel part and start cutting up to that. That's all I'm going to do. Just going to go around and start cutting up to it, so you can see how I'm doing that. I'm going to speed through this, and I'll be right back. Okay, you can see that's all we did. So we're just going to come back up here and start shaping his hat a little bit more. I'm going to go around here and bring it up. Basically make the transition from the bottom to the base as smooth as possible in terms of the way it flows on his hat, or on his head, excuse me. Now for the tassel, we're going to do two things. We're going to look at where the midpoint is and then cut down like that and up like that. We're just going to go around and do that. So we're going to cut, maybe do it on four sides, down and up, down and up, and down and up. So you're kind of beginning to form the shape of that. That's to get you started. Okay, obviously it's not done. Then we're going to kind of go in between those cuts that we just made and do the same thing. Down and up, down and up, and just go around and do that. Just kind of take it systematically. So we're just, we're forming a little bit of a tassel over there. And we're going to have to go deeper in here quite a bit, but be careful when you're doing this cut over here. Keep control of the knife. If you go too far, you'll slice off a part of the tassel, and then you're digging out your crazy glue. So keep control. What the thing is, you're going to be pushing with your knife, but you're going to put some resistance in this hand over here. Just don't push and without any resistance. And excuse me for people who are whittlers. They know that, but there's a lot of people watching this and have never whittled before and are interested in taking up the hobby. So we're working with that in mind. So there you go. And then we're just going to, we're going to keep refining this tassel a little bit more. You get it to your liking. It's just a repetitive process, working in little facets basically around and shaping it. The thing to do is, if you have your marks on the top, you're going to kind of see how you're, how symmetrical you are, and if you're off a little bit, because you want to keep it fairly symmetrical, like a little ball, but you want to keep facets in there too. You don't want to make it completely smooth, because when you paint it, it'll look better with little facets. So I'm not gonna bore you with all those details. It's pretty straightforward. When I get to the top, I tend to just start to clean up the saw marks by making shallower and shallower cuts. So eventually you'll come to the point of the intersection of your little guidelines there. And you're going to just get rid of all that. And then in the final phase of this, we're going to come back, and like I said, we're going to be putting little tiny facets all over the place. Not only in his hat, at least the way I do it. You can choose to round it off completely and smooth it out, but there you go. So now you kind of see we're really moving in the realm of Santa here now. All right. For his eyes, we're going to go very simple. these whittles are supposed to be simple and fun to do, and if you want to put more detailed eyes in there, you know, by all means, you can do so. You can paint them in and do whatever you want. Sometimes in small whittles, a lot of details in the eyes become too, in a way, I don't want to say distracting, but may not read all that well sometimes. But you know, you choose the way you want to do it. What I like to do is just continually shape the nose with the mindset of keeping it round. So I'm going around here and I'm just taking little cuts, and we're going to focus on putting, you know, in this area right here, the kind of the ball of the nose, keeping it sort of like a ball. So we're going to take our knife and do these little scooping cuts all around. And then maybe in the front too. Like I said, it's a Santa character. If this was a wizard or somebody else, you know, old grumpy guy, you know, we'd you know, maybe get more angular nose, but it's Santa, so we want to try to focus on the roundness part. All right, now as I mentioned, for the eyes, we're going to go real simple here. What I first do is deepen the little recesses right in here. So just take your knife and, you know, if you haven't done that already when you were doing the nose, you know, deepen those just a bit more. Kind of like that. And then what we can do is something pretty straightforward. I'll put a pencil line here. We'll just kind of come in here, and we'll put a line in here, just a small little line, and a small little line in here, just like that. And then we're going to put a little stop cut. These are very simple eyes. Just a little stop cut right into the wood, and cut up to it, and cut down to it. That's it. That's all you need to do. Nothing too complicated. You can come maybe deep in the top part a little bit more if you choose, but that's all you really want to do. Real simple. We want to keep this area under here kind of a little bit sort of puffier, and that's it. You don't even have to do any more than that. You just keep it like that. Real simple. So when we look here, when we paint everything in and all that, I'll put a little mark in here, kind of give you an indication. That's going to be kind of his eye. It's as simple as it comes. You can shave that back just a little bit, the edge over there. There you go. That's real simple. The real simple eye to do. And for those of you who like more involved and complicated eyes, there's, you know, I've done a few tutorials. I like to keep my eyes pretty simple. You know, some carvings I do more detail on the eyes, but it all depends. Most of the times I like to keep them fairly simple, and that's it. So again, you know, a little eye indication in here somewhere. There you go. So it's not too bad. What we can do now is start rounding the bottom of the hat. We're getting close to the finish here. So for those of you who have hung in there this far, I appreciate it. We're going to round the bottom of the hat. We don't want a sharp transition. So we're going to start rounding it a bit more. Take your time. Just go around and start rounding it. I like to come back in here and clean up that bottom part as well. Start to deepen the back a little bit more where his hair is. Start going around and cleaning up your pencil lines. All right. So as you can see here, we've got our little Santa character pretty cleaned up here. Or excuse me, pretty far along. The remainder of this is going to be cleaning up any bits of wood that you notice that need to be taken care of. If the wood is frayed or chipped out or whatever the case may be, go deal with that now. And there you go. Get rid of your pencil lines. These will disappear when we do the detailing work. And I'm going to kind of show you quickly how I do the there's various ways you can finish hair on a figure, and we're going to do this one in a way that I like. But you can certainly do it in other ways as well. But there you go. That's what we're at so far. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward, and we got our little character here. So again, I'm gonna strap up my knife, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's our little character so far, and it's essentially done. You could call it quits right here if you choose to, and be perfectly fine. Paint it up, and it would look great. We can add a little bit more detail to the mouth if you want. What I typically do is I'll come in here and I'll draw it in. Sometimes it's easier to get it at first. We're going to put in a little indication of a lip, a little cut in here, and then a little cut in here. And we're just going to make a little triangular kind of shape like that right underneath his mustache. So we're going to put a cut straight in like so. You can kind of see how that is. And then same thing on this side. Straight in, we're gonna have those two lines meet up, just like that. So here you go. And then just take the wood from underneath that away. So you got this little triangle sticking out kind of underneath his mustache. And we don't want it to look like that, so we'll have to fix that up, obviously. So what we're going to do is just shave off the bottom of that triangle, just to round it. Take it from both sides and just kind of start cutting it away a little bit. Kind of like so. So it looks like he's got a little lip. I like to come in here also and deepen this out a little bit in here. Straight in, kind of just pull out a little wood. So it kind of looks like, the upper lip going back into the mouth, or excuse me, the lower lip going into the mouth there. And again, was that necessary to do that? Is that an essential part of the whittle? No, absolutely not. You could forego that if you choose. But again, you can put as much or as little detail as you want in these type of whittles. You don't follow necessarily. If you're watching any kind of tutorial on whittling, you don't have to follow exactly what the person doing the tutorial is showing you. You can alter it to obviously any way you want. And I encourage you to do that. Change it up. Do what you feel comfortable. So there we go. It's got a little bit of a lip in there. And then the rest of it is just kind of cleaning up a little bit. Sometimes I'll go in here and I'll check out the where the cheeks are. Maybe start to round those a bit so they don't look too angular. Just little cuts to smooth them out, round them. I don't like any kind of pointy, as much sharp plain transitions. I like to kind of whittle those back a little bit just to make it look a little rounder. And that's all. Then the same kind of thing like we talked about. Take a look at it from all sides. If you like how it looks, it's kind of rounded. You can kind of see he's got a bit of a rounded nose, kind of a Santa looking nose, a little chubby and round it. You can do more if you want or less. There you go. So essentially our little whittle is done. Now, there's different ways to go about the hair. Here's what I'm going to do in this case, and I've talked about this in other videos. So again, if you heard this before, you don't need to listen to it. You can call it good right here. If you want to see what I plan to do, what I like to do is just add little texturing cuts. But before I do that, I'm going to add a little bit of detail to the mustache, or excuse me, well, to the mustache and the beard and the hair. We're just going to basically make 2 or 3 cuts down on the bottom here. So we're going to put our knife in the wood right at the bottom of the, we'll flip it around so you can see, right at the bottom of the beard there, and just kind of cut out little notches. Just go around, maybe in 2 spots, that's all. Same thing on this side. Knife in the wood. Cut out. Just like that, that's all. You don't need to do any more than that. Trim this back a little bit. And then we're going to do the same thing with the mustache here. Put our knife in the wood. I like to angle it out slightly. Knife in the wood this way. Little notch. Knife in the wood slightly over here. And take out a little notch. Just like so. You can kind of see it. It angles. It looks like the hair coming out in different planes, so to speak. And then same thing over here. Angling it out again. Knife in the wood. A little bit of a notch cut. Take your time with these because you're dealing with fairly thin wood. So if you do it too hard, you'll chip out the wood and you'll have to reshape your mustache. I like to come down at this point and just start to maybe round out those bottom parts a little bit. And you can kind of come in here. And again, this is what I'm talking about. You can add this kind of detail or not. You take it at this point. It just you're sitting around. Hopefully, got a fireplace going. You got a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage, and you're just relaxing and fine-tuning your little whittle. No stress, no worries, just relaxing. So there you go. That's kind of simple like that. And the same thing down here. I'm not going to bore you with all these details of me, taking these little notch cuts out at the bottom. They're just rounding. I'm just attempting to round out. I don't want these sharp transitions in here. So what I like to do, like I said, is just going to come out and just kind of round it a bit. That's all. Just take your knife and go around those little cuts you just made at the bottom, sort of giving them a bit of a rounder look. And you do as much or as little as you want in that regard. And then just go around and kind of, like I said, I like to take down any sharp edges as much as possible. So I'll go around the edge of the beards and the edge of those notch cuts and just start trimming that down a bit. Same thing with the mustache, just kind of notching, smoothing out those transitions. So there we go. And we're going to do the same thing on the hair here. I'm not going to bore you with those details because you saw how I did. I'm going to do the same notch cuts on the bottom of the hair here. So let me finish that up and I'll be right back. Okay, there you go. You can see I just did the same thing on the hair there. Now again, you could call it quits there and say that's good enough, or you can start adding a bit more details. What I like to do, and it's going to involve the painting as well, is, I mentioned this in a couple other videos, I like to take these small, this takes time, just make these small texturing cuts. You go around the hair bit by bit, and if you hang on to the end, when you see it's painted, I'll show you, why that I like to do it that way. It adds through a dry brushing painting technique, it picks up some of the raised areas of all these little facets that you're creating. But it takes time. You gotta, again, we're not, you shouldn't be rushing when you're using a sharp tool anyway, doing anything. So, but take your time, enjoy this process. Even though it's a simple little whittle with a very inexpensive knife and a very inexpensive piece of wood, it doesn't have to. You don't have to rush it. You can still put as much time as you feel is necessary into it. I've done a few videos where carving in 10 minutes or something like that, back, but and they're fine too. And obviously that's kind of fun to do. You can whittle out something very quick. 10-minute wizards, 5-minute wizards, whatever they are, and they're all great, and they're fine to do. And actually, skill building exercises to a large extent. But in a lot of ways, just taking your time and sometimes doing these slow, methodical, little facet type cuts can be quite enjoyable. And that's all I'm doing here. I'm not going to, obviously, have you sit through all that. It's relaxing, probably more so for the person doing it than the person watching it. So what I'm going to do is just kind of go through and take all these little facet cuts. I'm just going around. I do it in the hair. I do it on the robe. Tiny little cuts. I do it on the sleeves. I do it everywhere because I think when you paint it up, it looks really great. And it kind of goes into the philosophy I have. And again, everybody has their own way of doing things. I don't sand my whittles. I like to show all the tool marks, and all I'm doing with this process is putting more tool marks in there. It's kind of your signature. So when somebody looks at this down the road, they know that it was handmade. And one person and a knife, and that's always fun. And you get the enjoyment of doing it, which is really the most important thing. So anyway, rather than listening to me drone on about this, I'm going to just go through here and do these little facet cuts. And when I finish all that up, I will be right back. Okay, I thought I'd give you a little look at it before it's painted up, but there we are. Just kind of went through, added a little texture marks to it, as you can see, and that's really about it. So there he is on the profile. It's the back view. There's your front view. I'm going to paint it up, and I'll give you a look how it comes out. Be right back. Okay, here we are back. The piece is all painted up. You can kind of get an idea of what it looks like all painted here. And if you see in the coat and the hat, the dry brushing, you basically take a little white paint on the brush, tap most of it off, and then just run it across the surface a little bit. Kind of picks up some of the highlights. An interesting effect, and kind of enhances some of those facets we created. So there you go. I'd avoid the dry brushing as much as possible on the skin, but on the clothes, and if you had a darker beard, it would look kind of interesting. But that's it. I hope you enjoyed this whittle, and if you have any questions, comments, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. I appreciate you watching, and have a great whittling week. Talk to you soon. Take care.